The 375 Holland & Holland is one of the first purposely designed medium bore all-around hunting cartridges ever made. And 108 years later, it's still one of the best in my opinion. This cartridge was one of the first cartridges to actually be designed with the input from actual professional hunters out in the field. In that 108 years, the 375 H&H has earned a stellar reputation as the ultimate one rifle solution to any hunting on the planet. The 375 Holland & Holland Magnum was released in 1912 as a medium bore hunting cartridge that was suitable for a wide range of game. It was developed by Holland & Holland of London and was initially a proprietary cartridge made only for their custom rifles. The real actual history of the 375 Holland & Holland is not the one that most people like to tell. Most people falsely believe that the 375 H&H was groundbreaking and revolutionary at the time that it arrived on the scene, but that isn't true. The 375 H&H was actually a desperate attempt to keep up with the wildly popular 9.3 by 62 Mauser cartridge that had been overwhelmingly popular since 1905. That's right, the venerable 375 H&H was Holland & Holland's attempt to compete with the already popular 9.3 by 62 Mauser. Holland & Holland was the first to perfect the belted cartridge, and they cemented that belt into the legacy of the 375 H&H. The 375 H&H was made with a long tapered design with a really shallow shoulder on it. You know, the case was made like this so long strands of cordite propellant could be loaded into this case. This made this cartridge headspace unreliably because it didn't have a rim and because it had such a shallow shoulder. So a belt was added to reliably headspace off of. The end result was a cartridge that shot a 300 grain projectile at 2,500 feet per second with very low pressure and relatively gentle recoil. You know, and the case shape of this made it one of the smoothest feeding and extracting cartridges ever invented. Basically, the case design, the barrel twist, and ammo specs allowed the 375 H&H to shoot various different weight bullets to the same point of aim, point of impact. Although the 375 H&H is ballistically better than the 9.3 by 62, the 375 needed a custom Magnum action, you know, where the 9.3 by 62 can be chambered in any common Mauser action. I mean, it's got about the same overall length as your standard 30-06 loads. So the 375 H&H wasn't an instant hit with hunters like some believe it was. What really skyrocketed the 375 H&H into popularity was World War I. Germany and anything German weren't very popular after that war, and the 9.3 by 62 was viewed as a quintessential German cartridge. English manufacturers really took advantage of this fact, and the 375 H&H rapidly began replacing the Mauser cartridge in the hands of hunters throughout the empire. Then, the 375 H&H experienced an enormous boost in popularity in 1925, when American ammo manufacturers began producing commercial ammo for it, and in the 1930s, when the Winchester Model 70 was chambered for it. After World War II, just about every rifle manufacturer that made bolt-action rifles was chambering factory rifles in 375 H&H. Then, throughout the 40s and 50s, multitudes of Weatherby and Winchester Magnum cartridges were developed using the 375 H&H case. Then in the 60s, Remington and Norma jumped on the bandwagon and started developing their own Magnums based on the H&H case. Today, the 375 H&H is considered to be the epitome of a do-it-all rifle. It's able to handle both medium size and large game equally well. Ammo and brass are also readily available, and commercially available rifles chambered in this are common and easy to get. And with modern powders and bullets, the old Holland & Holland is even better today than it was 100 years ago. In his book, African Rifles and Cartridges, Taylor said that the 375 H&H is the best all-around cartridge ever designed. In my opinion, what Taylor said in 1948 is probably 100% true today. You basically have a cartridge that throws a heavy 375 caliber bullet out of a barrel with the same trajectory as a 30-06, with just a little bit more recoil than a 300 Win Mag, and add to this the fact that it feeds as smooth as butter and shoots different bullets to the same point of aim, point of impact. And you have what many consider to be the perfect cartridge for everything. And loading this cartridge is a dream come true. The case is pretty much up for whatever you want to do. It has no problems dealing with longer modern monolithic bullets, and it runs at low pressures even with fairly stout loads, and just about every bullet, regardless of construction, can be easily loaded to shoot good out of the 375 H&H. Today, the 375 H&H is probably the most heavily utilized buffalo cartridge used by visiting hunters on the African continent. And it's a top choice for hunting grizzlies in Alaska and Canada. And more recently, hunters are finding out that the lighter, faster bullets are ideal for many specialized tasks. People often claim that the recoil of the 375 H&H is more of a gentle push than a hard punch. And I wholeheartedly agree with that claim. And this makes the 375 H&H a perfect dangerous game cartridge for people who are recoil sensitive or suffer from shoulder injuries. Also, 375 H&H ammo can be found anywhere from small stores in rural Alaska to dirt floor markets in sub-Saharan Africa. Other than the 30-06, I think that the old 375 is probably one of the most prolific hunting cartridges on earth, and it isn't going out of style anytime soon. The 375 H&H was originally designed to shoot 235, 270, and 300 grain loads. But today, we have bullets available from 185 grainers all the way up to the 380 grain rhino bullets. But just because they make 185 grain and 380 grain bullets doesn't mean that you should go out and buy them. The standard 1 in 12 twist barrel of the 375 H&H really shines in the 250 to 300 grain range, in my opinion. The longer copper bullets in 350 and 380 grains would do better with a custom 1 in 11 or 1 in 10 twist barrel, in my opinion. There's basically 3 common uses for the 375 H&H, and you need to choose the right bullet for each use. The first use for the 375 H&H is for very large and tough thin-skin game. This would include bears, elk, moose, eland, lions, and bullets like the 250 grain TTSX, the 250 grain Swift A-frame, and the 270 grain Partition fit this role perfectly. The second common usage for the 375 H&H is to have an easy to shoot, dedicated dangerous game rifle. This would include animals like Cape buffalo, hippos, and even brain shots on elephant. This is where the 350 grain bullets like the TSX and weld core come into play. These shots are going to be well under 100 yards, so exchanging velocity for some added weight is a pretty good move. And that brings us to the last and most common use for the 375 H&H. And that's for the famous one rifle battery or one rifle safari. Basically, it's a plains game and dangerous game rifle all in one convenient package. For the one rifle African safari, the classic 300 grain bullet is going to be hard to beat. It's tough enough to reliably kill a big buffalo, but can handle Impala without much recoil and with a reasonably flat trajectory. So picking the right bullet and weight will depend on which of these three roles your rifle fits in. Indeed, if you wanted only one rifle to handle everything from deer-sized game to dangerous game, the 375 H&H is definitely the top contender. But this jack of all trades but master of nothing attribute started to appeal to me less and less as I got older. To me, it's just as easy to take two rifles to Africa than it is to take one. So I always take two rifles. If I plan on hunting dangerous game and plains game, I'll bring a specialized rifle for each. I mean, let's be honest here. A 30-06 is a much better plains game rifle than a 375, and a 458 is a much better buff gun than a 375, so why compromise? After this epiphany, my 375's pretty much collected dust for a while. But I was reinvigorated with this cartridge about 7 years ago when the 250 grain Barnes TTSX came out. I mean, wow, pushing these 250 grain monolithic bullets at 2,800 feet per second opened up a whole new world for me with the 375 H&H. It basically made me put away my 338 Win Mag and put my 375 H&H back to the front of my safe as my go-to moose and bear rifle. These things shoot like lasers. They hit like a ton of bricks and have very mild recoil compared to the 300 grainers. Because of these 250 grain TTSXs launching at 2,800 feet per second, I thought that my 375 deserved some better magnification. This is my Model 70 stainless laminate Alaskan and 375 H&H. This is an FN rifle that was made in the USA before they went to Portugal. And FN did a special limited run of these about 10 years ago and I was lucky enough to snag one. This is probably one of my top 3 favorite rifles that I own. And it shoots these 250 grain TTSXs well under a half MOA all day. This is pretty much one rifle I'm never getting rid of. So at the end of the day, I actually like the 375 H&H, but I like it more as a specialized rifle than a do-it-all rifle. So the 375 H&H hits hard, shoots reasonably flat, recoil isn't bad, it's very versatile, it feeds smooth, it's easy to load, rifles and commercial ammunition are easy to get, and it has lots of history and nostalgia. You know, even the guys who blindly hated the belted Magnums, even they like the 375 H&H. To me, the only downfall lies in its strength. It does everything reasonably well, but really excels at very little. If your hunting goal is to do everything on earth with only one gun, the 375 H&H is definitely the cartridge for you. But I like to shoot big bores at dangerous game, 30 calibers at plains game, 25-06 at small game, and 22s for squirrels and bunnies. So I'm not really interested in a one rifle battery, but I think I proved in this video that with modern rifles, bullets, and powders, the 375 H&H can be loaded and used for specialized tasks as well. And there's one glaring fact we can't ignore. No matter what your thoughts on the 375 H&H might be, there's one fact you just can't dispute. And that's that the 375 H&H has a 118-year track record of doing everything and doing it well. If you take your 375 to Africa, nobody's going to think that you're over or undergunned. If you take your 375 H&H on a grizzly hunt, your guide will be perfectly happy with your choice. And at the end of the day, the 375 H&H is super fun to shoot. I know this video maybe is a little bit on the short side for such a historic and nostalgic cartridge, but there's already thousands of videos and articles available to you about the 375 H&H. So I really didn't have any new information to add. So this video ended up being more of a commentary on the cartridge rather than a documentary. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching, and as always, good hunting. That's a mighty big gun for such a little girl.